Have you ever just stopped and wondered if there's more to life than what we see? More than just the day-to-day grind. What if every single moment, every challenge, every choice you make is actually part of a much bigger, much more profound story? Well, let's dive right into this idea of a spiritual battle that, according to Islamic tradition, is happening inside every single one of us. So, right at the heart of this whole thing is the idea that our existence isn't just some cosmic accident. This verse from the Quran is incredibly powerful. It frames our entire lives, and even our deaths, as a kind of divine test. And the goal? It's to see who among us is best indeed. So it's not about just getting by, it's about actively striving to be the best version of ourselves in both our actions and our faith. Now here's what's really fascinating about this test. It's completely personalized. It's tailored just for you. There's a core principle that God doesn't burden any soul with more than it can handle. That means your struggles, your challenges, even your blessings, they're all uniquely designed for your journey. They're not there to break you. They're opportunities for you to grow. Okay, to really understand this battle, we have to talk about the very first weapon that was ever used, the first sin ever committed. And that's pride, or in Arabic, kibr. Now, this isn't just about feeling good about yourself. This is a deep-seated spiritual illness. It's about arrogance, right? It's when you reject the truth simply because you think you're better and you start looking down on other people. This one trait is what kicked off the entire conflict. And that, of course, brings us to the main antagonist in this whole spiritual drama, a being known as Iblis. His story isn't just some ancient myth. It's literally the origin story of his unending war against all of humanity. So let's just walk through how this all went down. It all starts at the moment of creation. God creates Adam and asks the angels to show respect. But then you get this pivotal moment of defiance. Iblis, who is a jinn worshipping among the angels, flat out refuses. Why? Pure pride. This act of rebellion leads directly to his expulsion from grace. And here's the kicker. Instead of saying, "I'm sorry," he makes the vow to spend the rest of eternity as our enemy. And wow, this quote just says it all, doesn't it? Right here in his own words, you see the root of his downfall. It was pure, unadulterated arrogance. I am better than him. He's judging worth based on what you're made of, fire versus clay. And because of that pride, he directly disobeyed a command from his creator. That, right there, is the very essence of kibr. So this vow is where things get really serious. Iblis, now known as Shaitan or Satan, basically declares all-out war on humanity. He promises to ambush us on the straight path, to attack us from every direction, to exploit every weakness we have. And his ultimate goal? To make us ungrateful and to pull us away from God. The battle lines were drawn for every single human being who would ever live. So how does he actually do it? Well, it's not random. Islamic tradition lays out these specific vulnerabilities, these gateways into our souls that he and his followers are experts at exploiting. You might know them as the 7 deadly sins. Check this out. It's like a strategic breakdown. Each of our core weaknesses has a dedicated specialist, you could say. You've got Iblis, the big boss, who's all about pride. But then you have others, like Mammon, whose whole game is greed and materialism. Or Asmodeus, who works on exploiting lust. It's presented as a coordinated attack on all fronts, all happening inside our own hearts and minds. Okay, so that's a pretty intense picture of the problem, right? It can feel a little daunting. But it naturally leads to the most important question of all. If these are his weapons, if this is the attack, what's our defense? What's in our arsenal? And this is where we make a huge pivot, because the tradition doesn't just describe the problem, it gives us a detailed playbook for the solution. It offers a whole spiritual arsenal, a set of incredibly powerful tools we can use to build resilience and to fight back. All right, so the absolute bedrock, the foundation of your entire defense is something called Tawheed. This is the solid, unwavering belief in the oneness of God. Why is this so powerful? Because it means you put your ultimate trust and reliance on one all-powerful source. It centers your entire life and gives you an unshakable core. Next up in our spiritual toolkit is dhikr, which just means the remembrance of God. Think of this as your personal force field. The simple act of consciously remembering God, whether through praise or just a quiet thought, literally strengthens your heart against all those negative whispers. The Prophet Muhammad said it's the difference between the living and the dead. That's how crucial it is. And then we have Salah, the 5 daily prayers. This is so much more than just a ritual. It's described as your direct line a personal connection to God. It builds incredible discipline, and the Quran actually says it actively prevents you from falling into bad deeds. It's like a spiritual reset button that you get to press 5 times a day. The arsenal also includes these specific prayers, or du'as. They're like targeted spiritual tools for different situations. You've got one for explicitly seeking refuge from shaitan, there's another one for when you feel totally overwhelmed and need strength, and you can even ask for protection from those internal weaknesses, like laziness and cowardice, the very gateways we talked about earlier. So what happens when we mess up? Because let's be real, everybody does. Well, there's a powerful remedy for that called tawbah, or repentance, and it's a really clear 4-step process. First, you have to feel genuine regret. Then, you cease the action. You just stop. Third, you make a solid resolve, never to go back to it. And finally, if you harmed someone else, you have to rectify it. It's a path back that's full of mercy, and it's always open. So, the whole point of this struggle, this internal battle, is that it has a purpose. The goal isn't just to survive day to day. It's to actively purify your soul. It's about achieving a state of spiritual clarity and strength to win the ultimate prize, success in the hereafter. And this slide just lays it out so clearly. It really boils down to 2 paths. You've got the path of Iblis, which starts with pride, leads to rebellion, and ends in total despair. And then you have the path of the believer. That one starts with humility, which leads to submission to God's will, and its destination is hope and mercy. The 2 paths are right there, and the choice of which one to walk is completely up to us. And to help us stay on that right path, we have these major pillars of resilience. We already talked about prayer, that constant connection. But you also have fasting, which is an amazing tool for disciplining the body and shielding yourself from desires. And then there's patience, or sabr, which is like a spiritual muscle. The more you endure trials with grace, the stronger it gets. Together, they form this incredible support system. And listen to this saying from the Prophet Muhammad. It is such a powerful and vivid warning. He says that envy, just one of those gateways we saw, literally consumes your good deeds the same way fire burns up wood. It just goes to show that these internal feelings have real, tangible consequences for our spiritual state. And in the end, it all comes down to this. This verse from the Quran just perfectly sums up the entire journey. Success and failure in this life's great test are defined by one thing. Did you work to purify your soul, or did you let it become corrupted? It really is the bottom line. So we're left with this final thought to ponder. The test, as we've seen, is lifelong, but the path, the tools, the way forward, it's all been made clear, and the reward is described as something eternal. So the only real question left for each of us is, how will you choose to strive for your success?